Welcome to the Cyber Funnel Podcast, brought to you by Amplifyed, where we feature the top minds in cybersecurity.
Welcome to the Cyber Funnel Podcast, where we're lifting up the people behind the brands across the cybersecurity industry. I'm your host, Thorne Compton, and some of my great past conversations include Oversight Product Marketing Leader Teresa Roy and AI Adoption Guru Tom Baker. Today, I have the pleasure to welcome Renatta Siewert with Backblaze into the Cyber Funnel. How are you today, Renatta?
I'm great. Happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you here, too. I think we're going to have a really fun discussion today. Of course, as I always love to remind everyone, this episode is brought to you by Amplifyed, the SEO and GEO agency for cybersecurity companies. Amplifyed serves cybersecurity marketing teams by driving more leads from Google and AI search. We handle all the heavy lifting and know the exact levers to pull to get you more SQLs. And most importantly, we speak the language of cybersecurity. Learn more at amplifyed.io. That's amplifyed.io. As I said earlier, I have cybersecurity, PR, and content management veteran Renatta Siewert joining me today. We're going to get into some comms, the combination of PR and content. We're gonna have a really fun time today, Renatta.
Great.
My first question for you is really looking back over the last 5 years, as you've been involved on both the PR side and the communication side, what has changed that you see in both like the way people are searching in cybersecurity and like brand building techniques within cybersecurity?
What hasn't changed?
Exactly.
I would say that in brand building, the market has changed from there's the buyer committee,
Yeah.
Obviously. It's gotten huge. And I also feel like there are just fewer companies around. There was, sort of 5 years ago, 6 years ago, there was this kind of push to consolidate.
Yeah.
And we saw a ton of, on the cyber company side, we saw a ton of consolidation and buying happening, and that I think kind of changed things a lot from how we build a brand and how we talk about positioning our product for the buying committee. And we had to do a lot more. Marketing got a lot vaguer for a while in terms of speaking to a feature, speaking to a platform, all of those kinds of things. And that combined with the buying committee getting so much larger, just made our voice and our tone and how you talk about yourself as a brand just get so much higher level,
Yeah. I like to refer to it as the surround sound approach because it's gotten to where you could just be in one place. Now it really feels like you have to be everywhere and kind of trying to talk to everybody.
Everything everywhere all at once. Exactly.
Everything. Yeah. Great movie.
Yeah.
Now, specifically on the PR and the communication side, it almost feels like sometimes there's a little bit of a rift between those two. What are your thoughts on that and kind of bridging that rift between the PR messaging and then the actual content that's going on to your site?
Yeah. I always thought, historically, content was so demand focused.
Yeah.
We were using content only for ABM, display, what are we driving to?
Yeah.
What's the landing page? What does the landing page have on it? And all of these things that are so tactical and so focused and really for a specific purpose rather than PR, which is, really the air traffic controllers of where everything goes. And now I'm starting to see when I look at LinkedIn or when I look at, any job posting, any job sites, I'm noticing that content and comms are usually more tightly aligned. It's rare to see a content role, reporting to product marketing or reporting to demand or growth, whatever we're calling it these days. So I feel like it's getting better. But there's definitely still that kind of friction where is PR leading editorial or is content leading editorial? And
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, and it's so weird too, because like brand entity is it feels like that's even more important now than it was 5, 10 years ago. Talk about that. Talk about like what does it mean to have a strong brand right now, and how do you actually kind of get there?
Oh my gosh. Well, to have a strong brand, I mean, it's the feeling of, or it's what feeling does your brand evoke,
Yep.
really? Like when you really boil it down. Um, and it's also like, how are your employees treating that? Like,
Mhm.
is everyone, because the way I see it, people are your best content and people are a reflection of your brand, right? So, are your employees speaking the same tune? Are they actually, do they actually care to, talk about their role and
Absolutely.
what the brand is doing to like contribute and those kinds of things. Um, so there's that. There's like the very, there's the feelings side of it. But then there's also like the mechanics of it. Like as a brand, do you have the structure that you really need? Do you have your brand values? How do you translate those brand values to, your actual solutions and your use cases? And like, is everybody actually using those, or are they just kind of written on paper and then we just forget about them?
That's it really does feel like it is kind of the combination of facts and feelings. People like to think
Yeah,
about those two aren't the same.
yeah,
But like if you're not putting out the facts there, you probably aren't leading the feelings of people.
totally. Exactly. That's exactly right. Yes. And it doesn't matter. I think I don't know if B2B has been slower to catch up with this, but we've always sort of associated a strong brand with consumer brands.
Yeah.
And like that's just not true. We people who buy consumer things are also people who are on buying committees for enterprise products and vice versa. So it's like we're all the same kind of humans, and that's the part that we sort of forget when we're building a B2B brand.
That's a really great point too, is obviously B2C and B2B are different, but the way I mean most cybersecurity, we're talking B2B. We're not talking it's sometimes you're selling to a consumer, but it's most but at the same time you almost have to treat the businesses you are trying to grab as if they are a consumer, as if they are an entity, right?
Yeah, exactly. And we definitely forget that when we're saying like in today's ever connected world.
It's the amount of times I've had to, so I'm a former journalist and a former editor,
Oh,
as everybody that's listened to this podcast knows, because I talk about it too much. But like, yeah, the amount of times I just rip that immediately out of something.
yeah.
No, just get to it.
Yep.
That's a great question. Is like because the buyer group is so much bigger now because you're including so many more people and you're talking to different levels of people. Sometimes you're talking with people in the SecOps. Sometimes you're talking with the higher ups. How do you kind of balance that messaging to where you can hit multiple different groups together?
Well, that's a tough one. I mean, I think it's with like anchor content. We've always
Yeah.
um the research, for instance, has improved to help us do this, I think. Um, and I was talking to a research firm that I used to work with for many years about this. And I think that it's about building strong research, whether
Yeah.
it's, your own customer data, whether it's market data, a combination of the two, it kind of doesn't matter. I think it's about um, creating a story and finding data points that are interesting to all of those groups. And, a CISO, a CEO is not going to consume the same content
Different things.
as, a practitioner, a developer.
Yep.
So I think it's really just about like meeting people where they are, and just trying to find those interesting points and like again speak to people like the humans that they are.
And that's where I think leveraging multiple kinds of content is really important because like a high level blog is probably going to be something that's going to hit someone that's lower on the totem pole, but again, could be moved up to there versus your product page needs to probably be speaking a little bit more toward the actual person that you want to do the purchasing. So the person with the purchase power. The
Yeah,
thing is, you have to have both.
you do.
And I feel like that used to be the case where you'd be like, oh, we just focus it on one. If you don't have a white paper around the topic, a blog around the topic, another secondary blog around that topic, and then a service page, feels like you're missing out, right?
And it's even like even within those,
Yeah.
like if you're thinking about, I think people really like to, sort of look down at, an ebook or a white paper or something and, consider it a marketing asset. But like they are proof points for how you get in front of your buying committee. As, anybody who needs to eventually approve a purchase.
Yeah.
So like all of these things matter. And I think also too, it's really about making sure, as you sort of said, but like all of your content just like needs to fill the whole funnel.
Yes.
Can't just jump from like, a white paper or a piece of research up here or like a podcast sponsorship or something, and then just be like, well, there's the product page, there we go.
No.
There's so much that happens in the middle. And
Absolutely.
with the fact that we know that all of this research is being done through the large language models and word of mouth and all of these things that are really hard to track. Like you cannot have any of that piece missing.
There are a few terms that I have to do this with, and LLMs and large language models is one. So that's one of our words of the day. Very PB Herman style. But you're right. The LLMs and the way that the LLMs are servicing people, they kind of want to do it from an entity standpoint because, like, it seems the two different ways that people are looking that stuff up is they're going, "Hey, I have this. What serves me?" or what is this compared to this? So like really that comparison content, I feel like is also an important part of your content and PR plan.
This is a little question for you, if you don't mind.
I love
Um,
it.
I saw something recently about, this like constant fight that there is about comparison content and like, if you've got like a blog of, the top 10 vendors in XYZ space. It helps you. It doesn't help you. No, it does help you, and here's why. No, it doesn't help you, and that's why. Like, what are you saying there?
The number one way in my Bible on this, my word of truth on this is always what is actually ranking, what is actually
Yeah.
showing up. If you can put in a best endpoint detection platform, and you are seeing competitors of yours writing listicles and ranking there, do it. Do it because they're clearly doing it and it's working for them. If you put that in and you're only seeing product pages or you're only seeing G2 Gartner, then that's probably not worth your time. Uh,
Yeah.
it's kind of a case by case thing. So you always, just like everything with SEO or optimization, you kind of have to have some nuance around this. For the most part, the thing is, and then we're talking about just on the ranking side with the LLMs. That's where things get real wonky, and you have to kind of go in and do that research. Put in, I'm looking for, this endpoint detection. I'm looking for this whatever service. Give me some suggestions. And then what you need to do is you need to see the source that they're getting that from. Because if
Um,
they're sourcing that from LLM, if they're sourcing that from those listicles, again, you want them to be sourcing that stuff from you. So I like to say, we're going to go back to journalism again. LLMs are just trying to plagiarize you, so make yourself plagiarizable. Give them content they want to steal from you, because they will source you, kind of. But no matter what, you want them to be taking that from you rather than a competitor, you know?
hmm. I love that. Make yourself plagiarizable. Love it. I'm going to steal that. That's
Do it. You can plagiarize it. Absolutely. I haven't written it down, so absolutely. We're going to take that as a. What are some techniques that you're seeing recently around brand building that you feel are successful?
Hmm. Um, that's a great one. Trade media, I think.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, this has been it's I've been, in comms and content now for like 16 years. I think the conversation of like, wanting to be in the Wall Street Journal has always been a thing. It's never going
hmm
to not be a thing.
hmm
but trade media is really where it's at. I cannot tell you, how much deeper a trade reporter is going to go
Yeah.
on a story, and how their headline and like the lead of their story is going to matter so much more to your buying committee than some like passing mention in like CIO Journal or something. It's just like not the same, and I see it, especially like given the volume, right? Like that you are just going to naturally be able to get more pickups in trade media. This obviously I'm talking specifically about PR here, and like,
Yeah,
but those reporters too are also going to be the ones who are you know looking at you on LinkedIn, maybe interacting with you there, certainly participating in things like investor days or like those sorts of things that are so critical to how you run your business every day, and who are also asking you the questions
yeah,
about what they're hearing from customers.
yeah,
So I think like they're like not only is like the output important of the pickup and the trade outlet, like that's obviously important, but also like those questions that when you're in an interview with them, making you think about what your customers are asking and what those actual pain points are so like it's invaluable.
I feel like on the same vein, and this is funny, this is just a topic that kind of keeps coming up with us, but events are kind of a hot topic right now because
Yes.
everybody's, where are your thoughts on events and where that plays into?
Well, you don't see any online events anymore.
No, it's all
Thank
in
God.
person. Yeah.
Yeah, they're all in person, and they're so important. I don't think we did not appreciate them pre-pandemic.
Yes.
We did not.
Yeah. You have to lose
Now we
them to
do.
get them. Yeah. To get the appreciation.
Exactly. Yeah, we
Yeah.
didn't know what we had, and now we have them again. Um, I think that they are such a critical moment for community building,
Yeah.
and the content that comes out of a community event is like gold. Um, the questions that people are asking, it's like it's sort of like using a gong call or
Yeah.
all of the gong data
Yeah. Absolutely.
to formulate your agenda for an event, for example, is just like the best thing you could do for your brand. Like it shows your audience that you're listening, and that you care about what they have to say, and people can sense that you're taking them seriously.
Absolutely. And it's obviously it's not, if you can go to the big ones and the RSAs and the Black Hats and get a big old booth and have a monster truck there for you, that's great. But it feels like you said there, it's much more the just be there or even find some smaller ones and just get in the minds of the practitioners, get in the
Mhm,
minds of the people you're actually trying to talk with.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, and I mean, like, thinking too, the RSAs and like the huge ones where it's so difficult to stand out. Like you
Yeah,
see those really like stunty things. Everyone remembers like the goats a couple
right.
years ago
Yeah.
or
Oh,
whatever.
yes. I forgot about the goats. Right.
There were puppies. Yeah, all those things. Like those are all great, but like they have to have a tie,
Yes.
like they can't just be a stunt just for a stunt's sake. Um, and like that also you can feel that. You can feel it when it's just a stunt.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, it's really about making that tie and listening to people, and when you're and actually following up on those conversations too. Like when you're having a conversation with somebody at your booth, like they take the time to stop and talk to you, make it worthwhile, and
Absolutely.
make the content and the follow up worth it.
100%, 100%. So I can already feel a wave of product marketing people yelling at us going, but what about the leads? And that obviously, from my standpoint, like the way that we approach AEO, SEO optimization is we kind of think lead first. We want to make sure you're building that bottom of funnel there. How do you keep the bottom of funnel in mind while also trying to feed the top of the funnel?
Ooh, that's a good one. And I don't think I'm going to have a good answer for this one
I think you're
because
gonna have a great answer.
I am so, like, because of my background, because of like coming from a comms background and, you're on the other end of being a journalist too. It's like, I don't want to, um, my product insertion and, how we talk about like the speeds and the
Mhm.
feeds and the features and all those things. Um, I am so off of that. If it's going to like give a reporter like the ick, then I'm like, I'm out. But at the same time, like it's of course it's important for content. Like you have to be able to talk about that in a true way. And I feel like it's actually to go back to our conversation a little bit earlier. I feel like it's about having your use cases really
Yeah.
nailed down. Because if you're going to be just babbling on about like, oh, like you have data, so you're a great candidate for a customer, like that's not useful. It's like how can you get the most out of what we're able to offer and to grow, not just be a customer for a few years and then go away and we never hear from you again.
We're gonna enter Thorne's technical SEO corner really quickly, because
Yeah.
exactly what you're talking about there is the internal linking of it all. It's the
Yes.
yeah. If have a blog that links back to your white page, that links back to your product page. Have your site talk to itself. When you have any of those technical pieces or whatever, or the trade reporters, have them don't just give them a link to your homepage. Give them links to your white pages. Give them links to for them to be able to use and be like, hey, give them multiple options because like, a reporter never wants to be told exactly what to write, but they like to be given options for it. Like so do that. Give them the options to be able to link back and like make sure they're not just going straight to the homepage because like while the homepage is great, you want to be able to share that love across multiple different parts of your site, you know?
Like, exactly. And like if you're speaking to a reporter about, a specific product launch, sure, your product launch is maybe going to be on your homepage, but like that's not where like the true gold of the information is. Like you want to send them to like that white paper, the product page, like a demo page, the things that like actually add value.
Yeah, yeah. The things that are actually going to move them down the funnel. Hey, it's like
Right.
this is the cyber funnel podcast or something. Um, so, question I love to ask people, especially people that have been in the industry for a while.
Yeah.
Who are some mentors that you've had that have helped you kind of grow into where you are right now?
Ooh, I love that. Let's see. I have had two bosses who have like totally shaped how I think. The first one, she was a writer
Hmm,
kind of by trade, and we worked at a PR agency together. Yeah, exactly.
love
We
it.
worked at a PR agency together. But she had actually come from like being in house as a
Yeah,
star. Usually, it's the opposite.
right.
So she totally shaped me, and like her approach to telling stories was, and it sounds so simple when you say it, but when you really think about it, you're like, this is actually so deep. Um, Everything has to have a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yeah, absolutely.
Does not matter if you're writing 50 words. Doesn't matter if 50 characters. Doesn't matter what you're writing, like you have to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. You have to send people somewhere. You have to start somewhere, and don't dumb it down. And then most recently, I also had another boss who uh, she's like a brand genius.
Hmm,
And she was the one who sort of brought together comms and content when I was at Mimecast. And so she was the one who sort of recognized that like content needs to start with the brand. Um, yes, we have to bring it down the funnel. We have to, provide content and create it for demand campaigns and how are we going to what are we going to syndicate? What are we going to
yeah,
do like for the leads? But starting with like the top of the brand level, she she was really focused on like integrating comms and content, um, being really tight about brand messaging, and what we do on the PR side and editorial, and what we do on the content side, and that has also really shaped how I sort of um, uh, move into a new role and like
Yeah,
bring a system in, you know?
absolutely. Because you never want to you always want to promote yourself first, promote the brand first, and like obviously promote the brand in front of people. But
Hmm.
the brand is absolutely, if you're not thinking that forward, then it's going to get left behind, and other people are thinking that forward.
Hmm.
So
Hmm. Yep. Yep. And and like y- thinking about all the audiences, right? Like
yeah,
journalists, PR people, like we think about who all of the groups of audiences are. But I don't think that other people in marketing are necessarily always thinking about that. They think about sort of their primary audience, but not like all of them together. And so how do you bring employees in for internal comms, for instance, and how do they promote the brand? What is the content that goes along with that and that sort of thing?
absolutely. As Carbon the podcast cat joins us, say hello. You can't come on
Hello.
here without me putting you on video. Um,
Why
we're
not?
gonna move into. I want to get to know you a little bit more, Renata.
All right, let's do it.
Got. I call it the lightning round. It's really just two questions, but my first one for you is, what was the last book you read?
I read a book called "The Last Summer on State Street," and it was quite sad, but it was really well written, and it's about these four girls who live in the projects in like Chicago, maybe.
Mm,
Um, and you know, they're sort of like the construction that takes the buildings down and
mhm.
how they all move away. But like written from the perspective of like a 12-year-old girl, which is
Nice.
so interesting. You don't get those stories a lot. So,
No, that reminds me of, I don't know if you've ever read the book The Book Thief.
oh my gosh, yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Loved
Like,
that one.
well, it's the interesting thing for the spoilers for those people, and it's a movie too, but the whole
Yeah,
book is told from the perspective of death. Like it's
yeah.
written by like the Grim Reaper, but the
Hmm.
main character is like a 12-year-old girl. So it's kind of just told from the, I love a good story like
Yeah,
that. That's
yep.
it's okay to have a little sad story every once in a while.
That's true. You do need it. And you can always bounce back with something lighter.
Speaking of books and places to read them, where do you like to go on vacation?
I am a New England girl. I cannot imagine myself living anywhere else. And I love a summer in New England. Like we're, you know, at the end of June here, and summer is upon us. Lobster rolls, ice cream, all the things. So I love Narragansett in the summer. It is the literal best. Not to like blow up a kept secret.
Blow that spot up. I
Yeah.
complete side note. I just watched a show, I think it was on Food Network, and what they showed a lobster roll pizza, and I'm like, I'm curious. Like that
Mm.
sounds both horrifying and
I think it's a
delicious.
little horrifying. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
yeah, yeah.
it's a little like blasphemous, I think.
Hey, they were all saying how great it is. So, I'll try anything once. So,
Yeah.
um, Renata, thank you so much for joining me in the Cyber Funnel podcast. I think this was fantastic. I think you've done a great job today. I'd love to, real quick before I get into my last question, tell people where to find you and tell people about your business.
Hmm. Well, I am now at I'm now doing comms and social and brand at Backblaze. So I'm on LinkedIn generally. And it's, you know, not very exciting. I have, you know, two young kids, so I don't get out much.
I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you hear my daughter yelling? No, I'm just kidding. Fantastic. And then my last question for you today is, what is the biggest challenge PR professionals, communications are facing around building brand today?
Um, I think it's that communications does not have a seat at the table,
Mm-mm.
usually. You
Mm-hmm.
don't see a lot of, you know, corporate communications chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they're often brought in at the end of anything, whether it's a crisis or
Right.
a major launch, M&A, all of those things. Like you're never really trusted. And when you are trusted and brought in early, your opinion is it's not equivalent to, you know, that of legal or finance or whatever. So we are still working on that one.
The more upfront, the more people can actually put trust in the people's brands and the things around that and kind of move forward from there. the better success they're going to have. I completely agree with you, Renatta.
Yeah.
Hey,
hopefully we'll get there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Congratulations. You've made it through the cyber funnel. I think this was fantastic. And we're going to have to probably bring you back on sometime to talk over personas, because you kind of you touched on that real quick. And I was like,
yeah, we didn't get into that one.
We don't have time for that, but we'll get into that some other time. So
yeah.
Thank you so much. And everybody have a great rest of your day.
Thank you for listening to the Cyber Funnel Podcast. Tune in next time for more tips and insights, and be sure to click subscribe for future episode updates.